In this video, we're going to learn how to add and subtract unlike mixed numbers. Adding and subtracting unlike mixed numbers are going to have the same steps that we did with adding and subtracting unlike fractions. My first step will always be to find the LCD and have a common denominator. So I start by looking at 3/4 and 3/8. They do not have the same denominator, so I'm going to start by finding the LCD of these two numbers. 4 and 8 are both even. They can be divided by 2. They can also both be divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 1 is there, and 1 and 2 are consecutive numbers, so I know I can stop and make my L. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So the LCD is 8. Looking back at my fractions, I can see that 1 and 3/8 already has the denominator of 8. So when I write this problem, 1 and 3/8 is going to stay 1 and 3/8. 1 and 3/4 I need to change, and so I set up my second step, which is fraction times fraction equals fraction. 1 is going to go ahead and come down to my answer because the whole number is not going to change. I know that I do want 4 to turn into 8, so I'm going to put my LCD at the end. Now I'm just ignoring the whole number and I'm looking at my fraction. 4 times what equals 8? Well, that's 2. And if I do it to the bottom, I also do it to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. So now my new problem, instead of 1 and 3/4, is now 1 and 6/8 plus 1 and 3/8. So I can add my fractions. 6 plus 3 is 9/8. Now I'm going to add the whole numbers. 1 plus 1 is 2. My final answer at the moment is 2 and 9/8. But I need to look and see if I can simplify or rewrite any part of my answer. I know that 9/8 is an improper fraction, and I can turn that into a mixed number. 9 divided by 8. 8 will go into 9 one whole time. 9 minus 8 is 1, so 1 out of 8 is left. So 9/8 is the same as 1 and 1/8. I'm going to combine my 1 with the whole number I already have. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. And the fraction I still have left over is 1/8. So my final answer is 3 and 1/8. And this makes sense if I use estimation. 1 and 3/4 is almost 2, and 1 and 3/8 is a little more than 1. So 2 plus 1 should be a little more than 3. Let's try another example. I wrote my steps out to the side just like I did when adding and subtracting unlike fractions. The steps are the same. My fourth step, I still need to make sure if I can simplify it, or as I did my last example, if I have any improper fractions, I need to change them to mixed numbers and combine them. This example, we're going to have 3 and 1/6 plus 5 and 2/3. I once again start by looking at my denominators. 6 and 3 are not the same, so step 1 says find the LCD. The only number I know that can divide 3 and 6 would be 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And since there's a 1, I know that I am done. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So the LCD equals 6. I see that 3 and 1/6 already has 6 as its denominator. So when I go to write this problem, 3 and 1/6 does not need to change. but 5 2/3, I need to do step 2 and do a fraction times fraction equals fraction. I'm going to go ahead and bring 5 down here because 5 should not change. I know that 3 needs to turn into my LCD of 6, so I can put 6 at the end. 3 times 2 equals 6. And if I do it to the bottom, also do it to the top. Now I multiply across. 2 times 2 is 4. So my new problem now looks like 3 1/6 plus 5 4/6. Step 3, after I rewrite it and solve, it tells me I need to combine the fractions first. So I'm going to add 1/6 plus 4/6, and that is 5/6. Now I'm going to add the whole numbers. 3 plus 5 is 8. And my last step says check to simplify it. So I'm looking at 8 5/6, and if I were to set that up in the slide method, 5 and 6 are back-to-back numbers, and the only number that will divide both of them is 1. So 5/6 is in the simplest form. So 3 1/6 plus 5 2/3 is equal to 8 5/6. I can always use estimation to help me make sure that my answer is correct. 3 1/6 is closer to just being 3. 5 2/3 is very close to being 6. And 3 plus 6 is almost 9, and 9 is very close to 8 5/6. So my answer is reasonable. Now let's try a subtraction problem. 11 3/4 minus 7 1/2. First step is to look at the denominators and find the LCD. For 2 and 4, they're both even, so I know that 2 can divide both of these numbers. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And a 1 means I'm done. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So the LCD is 4. Looking back at my problem, I can see that 11 3/4 already has 4 as its denominator. So I'm going to come over here and rewrite my problem. I'm actually going to stack them with subtraction. I know that 11 3/4 will not change. 7 1/2 is going to set up into a fraction times fraction. The whole number is 7, and it's not going to change, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the 7 down here. 2 needs to change into 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And if I put it on the bottom, it will also go on the top. 1 times 2 is 2. And there's my operation sign. So I have now rewritten the problem as 11 3/4 minus 7 2/4. Now I can solve the problem, and I'm going to start by subtracting the fractions first. 3/4 minus 2/4 is 1/4. Now my whole numbers. 11 minus 7 is 4. Now I can check my answer using estimation. 11 3/4 is really close to being 12. 7 1/2 is close to being 8. And I know that 12 minus 8 is about 4. So my answer 4 1/4 is a reasonable answer for this problem. Let's try one more subtraction problem. 9 8/10 minus 4 2/5. Step 1 is look at my denominators, 5 and 10, and find the LCD. 5 and 10 can both be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And I have a 1, so I'm done. Now I'm going to multiply everything inside the L. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So the LCD is 10. And I see that 9 8/10 already has the denominator. 10. I'm going to rewrite my problem, stacked. Since 9 and 8/10 already has 10 as the denominator, I'm just going to move it down. And now I'm going to do my fraction times fraction, 2, 4, and 2/5. The whole number is not going to change, so I'm going to bring 4 down to the end. And I know that 5 needs to change to the LCD 10. 5 times 2 is 10. If I put 2 on the bottom, do it to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. My new subtraction problem is 9 and 8/10 minus 4 and 4/10. And I'm going to subtract my fractions first. 8/10 minus 4/10 is 4/10, because 8 minus 4 is 4. Now I'm going to subtract the whole numbers. 9 minus 4 is 5. And the last step is to check and see if anything can be simplified. I know 5 as a whole number cannot be simplified, but 4/10, if I put it into the slide method, 4 and 10 are both even numbers. So I can divide 4 and 10 by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. If I look at 2 and 5, the only number that will work is 1. So the simplest form for 4/10 would be 2/5. So I'm going to erase 4/10 and write it as 5 and 2/5, since that is the simplest form. To check my answer, I'm going to use estimation. 9 and 8/10 is close to being 10. 4 and 4/10, since 4/10 is less than a half, we'll say this is close to being 4. 10 minus 4 is about 6. And my answer was 5 and 2/5, which is close to 6. So I can assume that my answer is a reasonable answer. Now try these 4 practice problems. Remember to write down your steps to help you walk through the problem. Check to simplify at the end. You should not have any improper fractions, and every fraction should be in the simplest form. Remember, if you do change an improper, to combine your whole numbers. To help make sure that you're solving these problems correctly, make sure that you use estimation. For example, number 1, 11 and 3/4. 11 and 3/4 is close to 12. 6 and a half is close to being 7. And 12 plus 7 is 19, so this answer should be around 19. For number 2, 3 and 1/4 is close to being 3. 2 and 3/8 is close to being 2, so my answer should be around 5. For number 3, 8 and 7/10. 7/10 is almost a whole, so this is close to being 9. Minus 3 and 3/5 is closer to being 4. So 9 minus 4, I should get around 5 for this answer. My last problem, 5 and a half. 5 and a half is close to being 6. And 1 and 1/4 is close to being 1. And this answer should also be around 5. Use these estimation answers to make sure that your answer is reasonable.